What is going on out there? This is episode 3 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. What's going on? I'm Andy Weins, joined as always by Casey Bubba Lawrence down there in Dallas, Texas. Is Dallas proper? What is proper to call where you're at?
I'm actually north of Fort Worth, so not Dallas at all.
North of Fort Worth. Texas. We'll just call it Texas. There's a Texas flag on his shirt, not a Chilean flag. For those of you wondering at home. All right, Casey. Another week, another day in the grind. What are we talking about today?
Man, I really want to get into the different revenue streams that junk removal can definitely bring you if you do it right.
Okay.
And
let's talk. Let's think about where you've been. I know where I've been.
Yeah.
So let's first talk. Like what are the revenue streams? I mean, the basic ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that, because I think a lot of people, to your point, confuse them. So jump in. What revenue streams, and I'll follow. What revenue streams have you realized actual revenue in doing what you do?
Well, I think the easiest one that we'll go right into is scrap metal, because I think that's probably the most common in any waste removal, trash pickup. You're going to get scrap.
Yep.
And the cool thing is, I met this guy a few years ago who taught me a lot about scrap metal and how to put a number on pretty much everything and say, hey, look, if it takes more than this amount of time, then it ain't worth it.
Yep.
And pretty much how to break down scrap metal to make it profitable for what you're doing. And, do you turn in every piece of copper when you get it? Do you stockpile it? The pros and cons of all that. What do you do with wire? What about aluminum cans? Is it worth it? Screens, window screens. Those are huge. People think it's aluminum. It's pure aluminum. We should go scrap it. But, it weighs, 30 ounces, I think. I don't even know how much a window screen weighs, but it ain't much.
No, next to nothing, and takes up space. So
exactly.
When we're talking, let's frame it for our listeners here. You're talking waste streams once the job is done.
Yes.
Hey, I did the job. I have, revenue streams, sorry, not waste streams. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I did the job. I have this stuff that other people consider to be a liability, and I now look at it as an asset.
Right.
That's what we're talking. Yeah. So, yeah, scrap metal's the simple one, right? If what's interesting is I've been doing this, I feel like all my life, and probably before I was born. My great-grandfather owned a scrapyard here in Milwaukee. He primarily dealt in iron and cardboard, right? Those two commodities he pulled off of. Tower Automotive was a company here in Milwaukee that built parts and pieces for tractors and cars here in Milwaukee when we used to make those things here in Milwaukee. So I've been in this business for quite a while, but what's interesting about this business is the term junkie, total side note, the term junkie that we normally often associate with, druggies or heroin addicts, people of that nature. The term junkie actually comes from the turn of the century, the 19th century and the 20th century, so 1900-ish, when people were using drugs like heroin and taking junk into scrap dealers when recycling was first becoming a thing, and that's how we got the term junkie. So random history lesson there. And what's interesting there too is scrappers, I think is the most common nomenclature nowadays for metal recyclers, right? Kind of get looked down upon, but that's right. That's how I grew up. I grew up cutting my teeth, digging through people's trash, going up and down the alleys, picking up mostly appliances and bed frames and things of that nature. But then, you come across a couple of honey holes every now and then, whether it's, doors and windows or lock sets, faucets, those other things where, that's the non-ferrous metal, right? I think that's one of the challenges a lot of people have is they're like, I don't know, it's metal. Well, it's like, it's a simple process to determine what kind of metal you have. And then, to your point, when is it worth it to do what?
Right.
And that's going to come down to how your processes are, your level of involvement you want to have, and then ultimately what kind of capacity you have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't want it to be something where it takes up too much of your space and overhead and your resources. Let's just call it that. but it's still something that you can make a couple bucks on.
Yes, it is. Just a quick side note. You remember that? I think it was coax. Was it coax that I had? That
Coax cable?
No, not coax. It was the wire I ripped out of that house. That demo I called you about. Anyways,
What'd you have?
I had a bunch of house.
It had the metal. It had the metal sheathing on it, didn't it?
No. This
Or
is
not?
the wiring.
Was it just
The wiring took me like,
was it Romex?
Yeah, Romex. I'm sorry.
Romex. It was like Romex cable. Yep. Yep.
So that Romex,
Right.
I turned it in and I got like $548 for a trash can.
Yeah. What was it, an hour?
It took us an
I think you told me took an hour to clip it, 2 guys, right? So so even with drive time, let's say it took it 2 hours with a garbage can, right? All in, you're making $250 an hour for a 2-man team.
And what's crazy is
$25 an hour per guy.
Absolutely. And most demolitions, that Romex doesn't get taken out because it's so buried in the house that it's not worth it. This just kind of presented.
That one there was asbestos abated, right? So all the drywall was already off. Yeah, the drywall's off and it's right there. Get at her.
Yep.
I mean, that's the challenge. When I was poor, all recycling was good recycling,
Mm-hmm.
right? I took apart everything. I was picking up the smallest little piece of wire and copper as I had it on my sorting table. But then over time, when we hired a guy to do the scrap, then it became, okay, at what point is it not worth it? And my great-grandfather would be probably rolling over in his grave if he saw me take certain things in without breaking them down. But there's a cost to processing, right? My goal is to keep it out of the landfill, right? That's it. Rule number 1, keep it out of the landfill.
Yeah.
But there are machines that shred metal. Once it gets there to the landfill, they'll figure it out. Right? At the end of the day, someone will extract those precious metals. It's no different than your cell phone here. There's gold and platinum and silver and titanium and all that shit in there, or whatever. Right? Someone else is going to get that out of there eventually. It's do you have the tools, equipment, resources, knowledge to make it happen?
Yeah.
And we've seen people, primarily junk removal companies, get hemmed up here because they don't know what's worth their time.
Well, because they forget they're running a business. This isn't your hobby anymore, right? This isn't, hey, I got some extra time. Like, I got a fucking business to do now. Time is money.
This isn't beer cans you're smashing because you're already in the fucking garage and you'll take them in, twice a year for your $30 so you can go, spend it on pull tabs or lotto cards or whatever, And
right.
This is, I have the commodity.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do with it next?
Right. And
so
go ahead.
I grew up in this industry, so I don't know any better. That's one of the challenges I had. I'm like, you take apart everything all the time, no questions asked, and you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 5, 6 years old, taking apart lock sets or faucets, right? The cost of goods was zero, right? Because I got to live at my dad's house, and that was it. So every project was a good project, right? In that perspective, I just realized there's a fucking Kleenex box in the back of the shop. The fuck. Seasonal allergies. We got snow here in Wisconsin. That's how pathetic we are right now. Middle of spring, we got fucking snow on the ground. Anyways, I growing up, right, the cost of goods was nil, and so I took apart everything, and I thought I looked at it as a game. Even when I first started the business, when we didn't have jobs, or hell, even before I started the business, when I was laid off and scrapping, all hours of night, I had nothing but time. So I learned how to take things apart, but everything I took apart was worth taking apart because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So now you came in the industry without any knowledge.
Yeah.
So how did you start? When you first started hauling junk, what did that look like for you?
Honestly, when we first started, it was in my mom's kitchen, and like the driveway behind the house, because my mom lived in a nice neighborhood, so like we couldn't just have shit everywhere. So like in the back of it, we put stuff where it would be hidden. And if it was a lot of like big scrap items, then we'd probably go straight to the scrap yard. The issue is we didn't have a place to separate break down and process the material before we turned it in. So we just kind of took it as is, right? You're just getting on weight, bottom of the barrel metal. But what's funny is, like, as we grew, we got more into, hey, just because the numbers look great up front, like, hey, we made $80,000 this month. That's awesome. Well, how come we didn't turn a profit? Oh, well, look at our disposal and look at our payroll. And you're like, oh shit. All right. Well, how do we get creative here? Like, what numbers can I absolutely change? Disposal.
Yep.
I can change disposal. How do I do that? So that kind of led us into, the more we grew into our setups, but then we started getting scrap, and we had a garage, and did the garage thing. You saw it, your brother saw it, and then we upgraded, got a bigger warehouse. But it got to the point where I remember you were there, we were talking, and there was a key difference between you and I. You and your brother had this grown up passion of scrapping. Like you just fucking love doing it all the time. You could get lost. You could literally kill an entire day. Even if you had booked scheduling meetings, you'd be like, oh, whatever, I don't care. I just want to scrap all of this because that's what you love to do, And I didn't have that passion. So I remember asking, like, hey, okay, Andy, if I don't do this myself, how do I make it worth paying someone else to do this? And that was a big deal for you and I, because you were kind of like, well, technically they'd have to care enough to make it worth that money, because they could just shortchange you and they don't even care, and you're going to feel it. They won't. They're getting paid by the hour, where when you go turn it in, that $800 was actually supposed to be $1,800. But because they slopped and they, slacked off, it's now $800. And you just paid them, X amount.
Correct. What should have taken? Correct. What should have taken them 20 hours took them 40 hours.
Right.
Because there's a scrap value. I remember when I first started scrapping, I'm like, okay, I got to scrap at $50 an hour. Right. That was in my head. Okay, as long as I can scrap. And there was some days I scrapped at $7 an hour but it was worth it. I mean, I'd be working in the garage 7-8 hours, and yesterday, the next day I'd have $75 to my name. But it would have been $8 had I not taken it apart.
Yeah.
Right, because it was faucets and there was a lot of fucking around, dicking around.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of things wrong.
Casually. Drinking beer, casually stripping wire.
Oh yeah. Or stripping wire with a circular saw, or stripping wire with beyond questionable methods.
Yeah.
Because I was too cheap to buy $250 wire strippers.
A razor blade and a nail, and on the edge of the freaking table.
Correct. You make a little jig and you pull it through, and you just sit there all night and pull it through. And then, we actually, it was a couple of years ago, my brother and I gutted a building, and then we had the, fucking big ass gauge stuff. And I fetched out, and I spent the $250 on stripping a wire. And I remember my brother was pissed. He's like, we don't need those $250. We stripped thousands of dollars of fucking Bear Bright. And it was like, and actually that money, we took that in a little before the pandemic. I remember that money carried us through the pandemic.
I saw that. I saw that Bear Bright when I was up there.
Yep. We were sitting on it for a while, and then, when the pandemic hit, we were going through some of the shit with our business. We got out of the junk removal industry, and all of a sudden your revenue just took a shit. And then, that was our savings.
Yeah.
Right. You talk about, we're shipping all over the fucking place, but right now, especially with this hyperinflation that's going on, people are getting into gold and silver. And that's pretty simple. You go buy some bullion, buy some bars, put in the safety deposit back at the bank, bada bing, bada boom, But if you're not so fortunate like that, you keep, I went from 5-gallon pails to garbage cans to Gaylords, right? That's like my evolution of adulting, in the scrap world. Well, we just took in a load last week. Is when we've been sitting on it for a while. Prices were good, right? I watched the market, and I have space for it, but I'm rearranging my warehouse. I'm like, man, I don't want to move it one more time. And not to say prices aren't going to go, up or down. It's prices, especially when you're talking like copper, brass. We've been doing this for a lot of years. Anything for me on yellow brass, anything north of $2.40, I'm a happy man. Yeah. Copper one, anything north of $3.25, $3.40. I'm looking at the prices, right? Because then I got to look at, okay, how much space does it take up in the warehouse? How many more times do I want to move it? Or if it's up in the overhead, it's like kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, money's sitting there. The other thing is, I don't have this issue now, but you always have to think about theft. right? That's why we never store any non-ferrous outside, because I don't want it to walk. I've had catalytic converters fucking walk on me, right? That they got to do work for. The last thing I'm going to do is store anything of value, easily found, because scrappers know the fucking industry.
Oh yeah,
right? They know what's worth it. They know, where to find what you're looking for.
Oh yeah,
and then we, the consumer, end up always paying for it. But to your point, knowing what to scrap, and then also when to scrap.
Yeah.
And then when do you hold it? When do you take it in? Because at the end of the day, it's a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. This is what I also find interesting when people say, "Oh, I sit on it." And there's two schools of thought there. We'll sit on it until the prices go up. Mm-hmm. But I'm much more of the opinion, well, take it in when the price is reasonable, because it's not, capital's not working for you.
Right.
When it's sitting up in the overhead, it's not working for you.
No.
And as a business owner, these are the things you only learn in time. But I'd much rather go take that, whatever, $5,000-$6,000 load in and get that $5,000-$6,000 in the market working for me, than sitting up in the Gaylord as a saving. It's a safety. It's a savings account that just happens to be in a commodity.
Right. And that's the thing is, a lot of junk removal people, that when they do it from home, their backyards look like shit because they try to do everything there and separate and this, that, and the other, which is great. You got to learn somehow. For us, we had we grew into a spot where we had a warehouse just for recycling. That was it. Nothing else was in there. Like, hey, This is the recycling warehouse. That's it. And, I actually had a picture. I got to find it. It's from a long time ago, but I have like 27 different categories on a whiteboard that we got paid on. And it was all shit people threw away.
Metal?
No.
Or you're talking clothing?
In general, right? And down here is a little different than up in Wisconsin. But, for instance, I'm not going to veer too much away from scrap, but this goes on to the different revenue streams. But like cardboard, you mentioned it earlier, cardboard, right? Yep. If you have the means to store it, it's a commodity, man. Recycle cardboard.
Yeah.
And then, like for us, concrete. Down here, they crush concrete and they make road base. They make more concrete. They actually have these big, giant machines that'll tumble the concrete, crush it up, and a huge magnet sucks the rebar out. And then there you go. Yep. You got your metal over there. But also, believe it or not, horse shit. Horse shit. That's a commodity down here. You know why? Because people like to use it for their compost. So, for instance, we had a contract. I think they still do have the same contract, but contract with a horse, a ranch, and they had, I think, 8 horses. And once a week, we went there and we got, I think, 12 cubic yards of horse shit once a week. And
how much does that weigh?
It weighs, I don't know. I mean, it's a little lighter than dirt because it's actually fluffier than dirt, right? So it's not as dense.
Yeah.
But I mean, 12 yards it's a lot of freaking horse shit, man. And we stored it in our yard, and we had someone come in and load up trailers and buy it from us, $100 a trailer. And
you got paid on the front end to remove it, right?
Got paid on the front end, got paid on the back end, right? And it's all about finding the back end, right? I mean, people think, oh, I mean, this is trash, this is junk. Well, yeah, but someone will pay $1 for it. And would you rather make $1 or spend 50? Yeah. And we had.
I'm looking this up right now. I want to know how much
horse
manure weighs. I know. I'm looking. I'm going to look this up for not that anyone. There we go. Weight of 1 cubic yard of horse manure. 1 cubic. Is one. God damn it. 1 cubic foot. 40 pounds. I got to do math. 40 pounds per foot. Multiply that by 27. What do you go? Here's a rule of 27 for all you keeping track at home.
1080.
There you go. I was gonna say, if it's because dirt is like 1,500 to 1,800 a cubic yard. I used to work for a concrete company that did backfill. Stone is almost a 1-to-1 mix. So one cubic yard is 1 ton. All right, so there you go. So for all of you keeping that track at home, you said how much? I'm going to look it up real quick. So 40 times 27, 1,080. There you go. There's your number. 1,080 pounds. Okay, so you were hauling. So 12 cubic yards. You're hauling. 3 ton.
Yeah. No.
12.
Yeah. 3 or 4 tons.
6,000. Come on, carry the one case.
Yeah.
All right. So 3 tons of horse shit is worth $100. That's what you said in the back end, right?
Much, yeah.
Okay. So let's just do the inverse, because a lot of people are like, $100, that ain't fucking worth it. Well, what does it cost for you to take that to a landfill?
Well,
okay, I know here. Okay, so here, if I took, right? No. Let's say time being the same thing. Either way, you got to haul it somewhere, dump it or whatever, right? But all things being equal, I know here at our landfill, it is $60 a ton for 1 ton minimum.
Mm-hmm.
It's $30 environmental, $20 fuel plus tax. It's $115 some odd dollars to walk
minimum.
in. Plus it'd be another $120 for 3 ton. So I'm $235 into it, right, in disposal, and now I got 100 on the other end.
Yeah.
So really that manure is worth $335.
Oh yeah.
That's the hillbilly math of it. And then on the front end, what do you get paid? Did they load that with a skid steer? Or
no, so the lady had she raised very good breed horses or whatever, so she kept them in really nice stalls, dude. I mean, nicer than houses I've seen. Yeah. These horses live well. So she'd have them in big 55-gallon trash cans, so we'd have to do it by hand. But it was right there, back right up. We charged $250 once a week, and she still uses them, but it was worth it.
So $585 in horse shit. Repeat customer, like future values, right? That's a $25,000 a year customer.
So imagine you're getting into that space alone, right? Let's say you're like, hey, who are your friends with horses and horse shit? Hook me up, doing the same deal and just doing one a day at $250 a pop.
$125,000 a year. Yeah, it's $125,000 a year business.
Just horse shit.
One day a week. Or whatever, maybe 2-3 days a week it would take you to do all, whatever it is, how many routes you have, right? If you think about it, that's how waste management works. That's how your big trash companies works. They're not all things to all people. They do this thing.
Yeah.
They either stab it with a front end loader, pick it up curbside with a ASL, a automatic side loader, or they pick up a roll off container. That's it. They'll take your trash, but only 1 of 3 ways, and they'll get in the fucking bagster and some of that other random shit.
But the beauty of it all,
man, I wish
is it's
I wonder. Trash. It's not trash. It's not junk. It's a solid. Well, this is where diversification comes in, right? It's a solid waste commodity.
Yeah,
you're taking it from one place to the other. I tell people. I think I saw my girlfriend yesterday. I love file cabinets, right? I love me some file cabinets.
Everybody needs.
This is why. No. Here's why. Because people don't need them anymore. I've been cleaning out so many offices lately because offices are letting their rents expire or their lease expire, and they're making everyone go virtual, or they're cutting their people in half, or they're backing up all their documents on the cloud.
Yeah.
So either way, I'm getting file cabinets, right? I got 3 or 4 different ways I'm getting file cabinets, right? So there's the one. So I got the file cabinet. Second thing, in our Rage Room, MKE.com, for those of you in the Milwaukee area that want to come break shit. Shameless plug. Official sponsor of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We're at the top of the hour. Got to plug the name. Anyhow, we have a scenario called Bad Day at the Office. Well, guess what? With the Bad Day at the Office, you get a computer monitor and a keyboard and a mouse and a phone and got a file cabinet, right? So now I get paid for people to smash said file cabinet and just beat the shit out of it with a baseball bat. Yeah. So I got paid twice. And then I take that file cabinet that is now smaller than it started with.
And you scrap it.
And I put it in my 40-yarder. And right now, price last week, I got $280 a ton.
Yeah.
Which 14 cents a pound for sheet iron or tin for you guys down south. Best price I've seen in All the years I've been doing this, $280 a ton. The peak before was like $220, $240 a ton in 17 before the markets crashed in early 17. And I mean, I get it. Hyperinflation, shitty administration, fucking China, Russia, you name it, all these contributing factors. Cost of steel has gone through the roof. It finally worked out in my favor. So I'm going to get me paid. So there you go. 3 times. I get paid to pick it up. Customer's happy. I get paid to smash it. Customer's happy. I get paid to recycle it. My recycling company's happy. My vendor's happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh, you're making money on the back end.
So what?
The fuck doesn't matter. First off, the fuck doesn't matter. You want to get rid of it first, right?
Yeah.
First of all. And second of all, I kept it out of the landfill. I fulfilled my obligation.
Yeah.
And you were able to get what you wanted to, which is the file cabinet gone. Now, could that same person go run to the scrapyard and throw off that file cabinet that's, 12 pounds for 14 cents a pound? Absolutely. Take your $1.80, go buy you I don't even know you can buy for $1.80. You can't even buy an Orange Julius. That's like a half a Starbucks cup of coffee. You can maybe get a double cheeseburger for $1.80. I don't even know. And then 50-50, you get a flat in your tire, because if you drive to the scrapyard with a regular car, you're catching a fucking nail.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Here's the cool thing. So I did this junk removal business in between 2 big cities. I wasn't in a big city at all. I was just in suburbia, man. Yep. And the reason why we succeeded so well is because for wealthy people and very affluent people, what's the number one important thing for them? Time.
Time, baby.
Convenience. They paid my premium because they didn't want to F with it themselves. So they would ask me, hey, do you sell this stuff? And I'm like, absolutely. If it's sellable, I'll sell it, or I'll donate it, or I'll recycle it. But I'm not going to throw it away. And they're like,
but correct. Well, even donating stuff, it reduces your cost.
Absolutely.
It reduces your operating cost.
It brings business because people are like, hey, they donate shit. They're doing good shit here and there. Cool. I want to use them. At the same time, I've had the same customer literally call me for the dumbest, smallest shit because they want to support my business, all because we did things the right way. Now, the flip side, people will always say, well, couldn't I just sell my own shit? Absolutely you can. You know what?
Absolutely.
And if you ask me how to do it, I'd probably give you some pointers. But the key thing is, if you want all your shit gone and you want it gone now and you don't want to mess with it, call me and I'll do it. And if I get rid of it that way, that's my prerogative because I got shit to deal with. So I'm gonna have a resale shop, at least a warehouse where I do resale. I'm gonna have donations. I'm gonna have scrap. You name it. We did over, just in resale alone, we did over $100-something thousand just in resale, not including scrap. So
yeah, but you also had to set aside 1,000 square feet of your warehouse, have an employee do it.
We grew into it though.
It's a standalone business if you're willing to have a standalone business.
It is. We didn't want it to be though.
Or another revenue stream, Yeah. And this is the alignment act that a lot of people that get into the junk removal business struggle with, right? And what we talked about, in the top here, is when you're doing it yourself and your costs are low, every dollar is like, oh man, I can make money here, I can make money here, I can make money here.
Yeah.
But you also don't have a lot of times shit else to do. You can only go to so many networking events. You can only put out so many door hangers or whatever, guerrilla marketing, or you can only do so much of that where you're like, all right, fuck it, I need to make a buck, or I need to do something where I feel productive, because you get your ass kicked those first couple months of business when the phone ain't ringing and you don't know your asshole from a hole in the wall.
Oh man, those are the best.
But then what happens is
that's when you get creative.
Yeah, those are the best time. Yeah, you get creative as shit when you got to make the phone ring, right? But then we know that. But then what ends up happening is you're like, oh, I made money doing this, but did you make enough money where you can pay someone to do it at the scope and scale where it's worth it? Because if you try to do all things and you try to be all things to all people, you will stumble. And a lot of times you will lose focus on the main goal. Because like you said, okay, let's say you did $100,000 in resale. I've done 6 figures in scrap in a year. Mm-hmm. Still doesn't represent more than 1%, more than 10% of my overall revenue, though.
No,
I still get paid on the front end. Yeah. I still get paid on the front end to deliver a service to a consumer that's paying me to do it. So that's where people stumble too. They see money in the back end and they get messed up, right? Now, if your back end is more than 15, 20% of your overall revenue, you got to look at your business. Maybe you have something interesting going on there. Or you need to get into that business, right?
You know, something
like in the horse shit. What's that?
So like you just said, so Amazon, for instance, Amazon, HBO, they produce movies, right? And they make probably, they probably make a good amount of money on the movies that they produce, but their bread and butter, subscriptions.
Correct. They're looking at subscriptions, although there's a finite amount of subscriptions.
But
right, they can only raise prices so many times. Yeah, they're looking to reduce their cost of correct. They're looking to reduce their cost of goods. The challenge with Amazon is, Amazon or Netflix. Netflix is in the selling the products business. Netflix is in the subscription based model. Obviously, Amazon's in the selling of the business or selling of the products model. Is how many of those resources, dollars and time, mostly dollars from subscription service, get reallocated into producing their own films, and at what point is it unsustainable?
Well,
that's the same thing here when it comes to junk removal, and now our finite resource is money. Obviously, it's also space.
Yeah,
I've had a rule for years: nothing stays in the warehouse more than 30 days, and we've abided by that rule for about 7 fucking seconds, right? Because people have a bunch of good ideas, and I got a big ass warehouse, right? I went from 700 square foot garage to a 20,000 square foot warehouse, and in the garage, 700 square feet. You didn't have 30 days. We had about 2 days. We filled that sucker up. That was all the best stuff. 20,000 square foot warehouse. 6 months, I had the thing full, stacking stuff in ways that didn't make any sense. I just did a reset of our warehouse this last week again. Found a bunch of good ideas. And the good idea fairy, left a bunch of things all in the warehouse. And I got to get back to the 30-day rule, right? 30 days, we got to process it. It's got to be ready for shipment, or it's going to be already shipped out. Scrap and some other things, clothes we can sit on, but they got to be processed. Otherwise, they're taking up space. Every time you touch them and move them, it costs you money. And people don't realize that.
Well, that's the thing because they're doing it themselves, man. Most junk removal companies or people. I have my biggest competition when I was in junk removal wasn't other big name businesses. It was the no names. It was the, hey, I'll do it for $100. Yeah. And the issue with that is for them, they will never be more than that unless they want more than that. If they want more than that, then they're going to be like, hey, how do I get to where I don't have to beg for jobs? Well, here's how, right? You set a name for yourself. And what we did, we set a name for ourselves and we got to the point, then our number one thing was, hey, how do we get jobs? The number two thing was, how do we afford to be in business? How do we pay for this business? Because right now, we may be making money, but man, we're not turning a profit yet. How do we do this? And then after that, we started thinking, okay, well, how do we save money or make extra money here and there? Like you said, donations is it's a reduction factor. It reduces your expenses. At the same time, resale, recycling, you'd be so surprised how much shit you throw away that doesn't have to be thrown away. And then to top it all off, the cherry on top is, what if I told you can get paid for it too, right? Oh, yeah. And that's the thing is, people want to say, oh, well, I don't have a big space. That's okay. You got a backyard. Do you have a garage? Cool, start there, because we did. You got to start somewhere. Yep. And then if you put those numbers together and start doing great, remember your main business is junk removal. All right. So I'm not saying, hey, don't get away from that. In order for me to scrap better, I have to go pay $2,000 a month for rent for a warehouse. That's not the answer. Your answer, you should be saying, hey, how do I get to the point I'm at now to a place like that where now I can actually do better at scrapping and other things on the back end? Well, it starts up front. Junk removal.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this episode is about those revenue streams, the back end revenue streams, but it'll always come back to get paid for what you do on the front end.
Yes.
On the back end, your goal, again, every commodity you pick up is either going to cost you money, be neutral, or make you money. That's it. There's only 3 courses of action or three places you go. overall, you've got to be efficient with what you're going to do with it, how you're going to get it to the next level, and then recognize, and part of that efficiency is recognize what do you have and what work do I have to put in to maximize the value. Like, I did a hoarding house last week, right? The best way we can maximize the value was get dumpsters, touch it once and take it right to the landfill. That was the best way we could maximize value, right? It was dirty, it was nasty, and also get paid by the hour because it, hoarding house, bunch of small shit, takes forever to get picked up and out of there, right? That rule has, doesn't change, but every job is a little bit different, right? Doesn't make sense to go landfill direct. There's sometimes we go landfill direct. Sometimes we go scrapyard direct. Sometimes we go, donation, direct. I always tell people if you got more than half a trailer or something, take it right to the next best location. Because by the time you bring it to my warehouse, unload it, sort it, touch it, move it, store it, reload it, just get rid of it. Now, don't drive to every scrapyard every time you pick up a file cabinet, certainly, but figure out what process works for you and also pick and choose your battles. If you don't have a desire, like you said, to scrap, fine. Don't throw it in the landfill. Take it to the scrapyard.
Yeah.
I have no desire to do resale. My brother ran it. One of our other guys ran it. My mom ran it. I have no desire.
Yeah.
But I have a relationship with Habitat for Humanity. Yeah. I run their trucks 3 days a week, or run a truck for them, I should say, 3 days a week. So now the first stop the first pickup of the day is at my own warehouse.
Yeah.
Take it right to Habitat. They're in the resale business. Let them have it, because now I took something that potentially had value, right, that third tier, and I demoted it to, neutral value, or, no value, a zero value factor. But I also freed up 3,000 square feet. I had 3,000 square feet of warehouse dedicated to sales for. Another 1,000 square feet when I look at different places that shit got stored. I just freed up 4,000 square feet of warehouse space. That is worth $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month to me to run my other operations. So now I went from a 4,000 square foot footprint on, reusable items to 400, maybe, 250, 300 probably in that range. It's just a handful of carts that we stack donations on, and 3 days a week the truck goes out. So, look at what a 24-foot truck can fit, right? 7 foot by 24 foot. That's about the footprint, 175 feet roughly. That's the footprint of what, a 168. We're doing fucking hillbilly math. Is it 168? It's gonna drive me nuts. What's fucking?
I know how many carts.
24 by
24-foot truck.
Yeah, 175. Yeah, I was right. 168. I don't know why I fucking second guess myself. I fucking know my maths. Also, that's why I use that analogy, 24 by 7, because that's 168 hours in a week. We all got the same amount of fucking hours. There we go. I should fucking just know that one on top of my head. Fucking, I love math. I love lamp. I love math.
So what you said about Habitat, for our resale side, we actually had an auction company come in, and we paid them a percentage because they did all the labor stuff. They did the categorizing, the taking pictures, the separating, the sorting, and then they did the marketing, and then they did the auction. And I think we had like a 70-30 split, which, fuck, dude, I'm okay with that. Now keep your 30%.
70 your way or 70 your way or 70 their way?
70 our way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because then your guys can pound jobs, and then you can reallocate those dollars to invest in marketing to go pound more jobs.
Yeah.
Right? The goal is that these alternate revenue sources, right, these are side hustles. They can't cost you a lot of resources or energy.
Hold on a second.
Will your kid come in the room?
I'm listening, yeah.
It's fine. Put your kid on the podcast.
No,
he's gonna be running an excavator in a couple of years.
Couple of years? What are you talking about? He's already doing it.
Next year?
Huh?
I mean, if he can reach, I said I remember as a kid, my dad would put me in the Bobcat skid steer.
Yeah.
And I not that I could touch the pedals, but once I could touch the pedals, I was good to hook. I don't know how we didn't kill ourselves.
He's the only 2-year-old I know that has operated a 50,000-pound excavator.
I'm 38 and I've never operated a 50,000-pound excavator.
He loves it, man. He won't touch his Power Wheels Jeep outside for some reason, but he'll get in a skid steer.
Is he afraid of it or what?
I don't know, man. I think he's I don't know. But when I bring a skid steer home, he jumps in that thing. He wants to because it's all joysticks now, right? There's no more pedals. So now I'll just sit there and he's in my lap, and I go in the back part of my house, backyard, and I'm just like this, do it, and he's just, yeah, man.
He's not tearing the yard up?
Nah, not in the back.
I did get in a skid steer a couple of years ago. I was doing a TV show thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a couple of years since I've been in a skid steer, admittedly.
We have to have an episode just on the TV show part of it, Andy, by the way.
That's fine. We can do an episode on that shit. What not to do in business. Get with venture capitalists and fucking hold up your end of the bargain when other people don't hold up their end.
Yeah.
It's something like that. That's pretty much how that fucking episode will go. No, I don't need a bitch about shit in the past. I learned a lot. Fuck it. And I got to drive a skid steer for about 4 or 5 days because nobody else knew how to run a skid steer.
Yeah.
But the old school one, like the old school Bobcat, where it was, whatever, lifting, whatever, up and left was like up and down, right was tilt, and then it was that was it. There was, now it was all on all
joysticks
here.
Yeah.
And joysticks, but it had like 3 different modes. And I'm sure if anyone's watching right now that like runs equipment for a living, they're like, "This is a fucking dumbass, jackass." Like, "Oh, it's a fucking," like comment what the fucking 2 or 3 modes are. But for the life of me, I was like, well, I want like half this mode and half that mode. And they're like, that's not how it works, idiot. It took me a fucking day. It took me a day of like, but it's all right here. I got the goddamn carpal tunnels because it's all fucking right here.
Yeah.
And of course, you also got to put the fucking bar down, have your fucking seatbelt on, even to a point where if you opened up the gate, the door, like more than like 6 inches, it would, man. It was tripping me out. You always had a lap bar thing, on a skid, so you always had to drop it, but it'd be fucking loose and shaking,
Dude, Monica got
operating
an excavator too.
Yeah. I ran front end loaders like for a construction company. It's like, man, they're so jaggedy loose, and your shoulder be worn out from jacking them around. Now it's all like, yep. Or I see those big combines; those things run themselves. Fucking combines, excavators. Like,
have you ever been a dozer?
You just sit there, eat a sandwich, drink a cup of coffee, and just go to work. You're just You might as well be in a fucking cubicle.
Oh yeah, it's trippy now. Everything now everything's GPS. Like everything. You got dozers now that just type in some stuff
and they're fucking quiet.
There you go.
They're quiet. You called me from an excavator one day. We had a fucking like hour-long conversation, right? And I'm like, God, I can actually hear them. Like, I remember working concrete for years. I'd be fucking going down the front end loader, just down the city streets, and all your phone would ring, and you had a full pull over, stop, shut the machine off, and then pick up your phone. And fucking, by the time you already missed the call.
Yeah.
I worked with some shitty companies. Great companies. I really did. Guys that knew how to do their shit. But they've been using stuff in the 60s and 70s because it still fucking worked. The equipment was shit. The owner was able to underbid most folks, right? And that's another there's another episode right there. Talk about when and why and where you buy fucking equipment, right? And you and I have a couple different schools of thought on that.
Always buy new.
On what equipment to buy when. What's that?
Always buy new.
You finally wisened, because for a while there was not I was the always buy new guy, and you're like, oh my God, you're like smiling. I can see you fucking smiling. Because you did buy new a few times. How'd that work out for you?
Money. I'll tell you. Do you remember in my junk removal company? Do you remember the Lincoln? Yeah,
you thought, you fucking loved it. You give me so much shit. My Chevy 2500. You're like, I'm a Ford guy. I got this fucking Lincoln. I was like, you have a Lincoln wrap fucking truck. Like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Lincoln Mark.
Terrible. It was a terrible.
It was terrible. When we got rid, we had a really bad hailstorm last year, and it totaled a lot of.
I remember you telling it. Yeah.
And it totaled the Lincoln, and the insurance company gave us $10,000 for the Lincoln, and I was like, it had like 200,000 miles. It was torn to shit inside. It was wrapped. The first original wrap for 6 years, by the way. It was disgusting. The sunroof leaked, so we had duct tape on it. Yeah,
you had a Lincoln with a sunroof running junk removal. You're like fucking leather seats and wood paneling trim.
Heated leather seats. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I got, you know what? We when we bought our new trucks, I'm like, give me whatever, like the all the rubber, anything I can. I want to hose this thing
Yeah.
off whenever I
The
need to.
XLs,
At all of our trucks.
the pleather.
Yeah. I remember I worked for a construction company. We had this Ford F-350. It had to have been, I don't know, 80, 84, 85, right? Mid to late 80s. Dual gas tank. You can never put fuel in the front tank because it fucking leaks. So you can only put it in the back tank. The speedometer didn't fucking work.
No.
The speedometer didn't work, and it looked like a raccoon had taken chunks out of the seat because you're working construction, so you're constantly going out. So constantly getting out, so that just out, right? And I used to run barricades, so I would pick up barricades and fucking set them out before the concrete guys would come by and start pulling stones and shit. But I remember I running that truck when we started our company. I'm like, you know what? I'm never gonna have it where I have to explain to an employee how to make the truck work. And no speedometer, no gas gauge. That truck, same thing, no gas gauge. So there was always a Post-it note with the last time someone filled it up, right? And it was always it was like 200 miles. Every 200 miles, it would go to like 250, but like every 200 miles, you had to put the 20 gallons in or whatever, 30 gallons.
Golly.
But oh my God, and the bitch of it is, I would say like once a month we ran that thing out of fuel because you'd lose the Post-it note. You're like, oh yeah, I'll remember.
Had the windows down. It blows.
Like, oh yeah, but we also had a foreman. We had a foreman who had he had a fuel tank, like a 100-gallon or probably a 100-gallon tank in the back of his truck because he'd fuel up the equipment, the machine, the front end loaders and shit. And I'd call him. His name was Bob. He died a couple years ago. Good ass dude. But like, hey Bob, I was like, I'm with the Ford. He's like, you run out of fuel again? I'm like, yeah. He's like, God, fucking bull. What fucking intersection you at? Like, I'm 27 in Burnham, whatever. Where the fuck I was at. So, God damn it. And he's coming from the other side of the job site, which is like 5 blocks, right? We're pouring concrete. But I got my fucking ass handed to me. I'm like, how much you get a fucking gas gauge, Bob? Huh? Like, this equipment sits for 4 months a fucking year over the winter, and I don't have a fucking gas gauge. I ain't got a fucking speedometer.
His excuse was like, well, just pay attention. You don't need it.
That was it. It's like there's a fuck, and to a point where there was a pencil on a string taped to the dash. It's like, you had a pencil. What else you need? It's like, I mean, you're not wrong, Bob.
You just,
oh yeah,
that's hilarious.
You're an asshole, but you're not wrong.
Oh man,
you know. Anyways, yeah. When I started my junk removal company, I thought about the way that, how things were on the farm growing up, how my dad ran his company, how things were in construction. And also I knew I wanted to run a business that was repeatable. So I'm like, hey, I got to be able to have repeatable processes and procedures so that I can make money. Yeah. And I don't have to explain shit to people. I'm not held up with operational liabilities. And it goes back to, again, we'll get back to the topic at hand at some point, but revenue streams, right?
Yeah.
Systematic, thorough, repeatable processes.
Yeah.
That's it. And if they're not repeatable, thorough, fucking systematic, thorough, repeatable, there's 3 fucking words there, right? If it doesn't check those 3 boxes, it doesn't work. If it needs you, the owner, to do it, it doesn't work. By definition, the process has to work. You got to put work in to develop it, to design it, and then you also got to be true and honest with yourself. What are you passionate about? What's good for your market? What is repeatable to your team? Like even scrapping to this day, there's only one guy in our entire team that we let scrap.
No,
because it wasn't cost effective with other people. Even strip and wire, simple process. But if people weren't passionate about it, all of a sudden it's like, why is this mixed with this? Why don't you take the sheathing off here? Like it gets fucking old.
Yeah, but you know, I will say, if someone were to ask me, hey, I just started my junk removal company, and I really want to at least try to start. I get a lot of scrap, but I want to listen to you guys, and I can't afford to get a warehouse or whatever. At least get 4 or 5 Gaylords and put them in the garage.
Basic.
Like,
not even Gaylords, 5-gallon buckets.
I mean,
5-gallon buckets.
You could start it, yeah, and that's
at least in a car.
We got.
You could put 5-gallon buckets of brass, 20 pounds a piece, in the back of a pickup truck, and that 20 pounds it was $2.72 a pound I got the other day. That's $50. You can fit 5. You can fit 5. I used to haul brass in 5-gallon buckets. Because 20 pounds of brass is nothing in a 5-gallon bucket. with smaller shit, you can fit 40 pounds of brass in a 5-gallon bucket, right? Really, really small, fine shit. But to start there, because if you're not willing to do it with a 5-gallon bucket, a Gaylord doesn't do any good. It just takes up more fucking space.
Well, and that's the other thing is, the first excuse is going to be not really excuse. It's going to be a question on ignorance, which I had, and that's how do I understand or how do I tell what is what? Well, dude, YouTube is awesome.
University. Here's the deal. I got a hard stop in 5 minutes. I'm going to teach you the Weins methodology to scrapping. Here it is. You don't even need fucking YouTube. I'll put like a minute on the fucking clock. I can explain it in a minute. Right there you go. Nope. File, magnet, hammer. 3 tools. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. I can make a tutorial video, but it's this simple. Magnet. If it sticks, it ships. Goes in your sheet iron dumpster. Done.
Yep.
Right. Now check a couple different. You got like a lamp or some things like that have multiple points. All right. Check a couple of them. Right. That's it. Sticks. It ships. Done. Second thing you do. File. I want to know what color she looks like outside the fucking makeup. Not the girl the night of. I want to see what she looks like the next morning. Get on that file. Start filing it. Okay, right? It's only going to be a couple different colors. More than likely, it's going to be yellow in color or silver in color.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow in color, it's brass. If it's copper in color, it's copper, right? Basics. Now, if it's silver in color, it can be aluminum, it can be die cast, it can be stainless. Those are the 3 things you're going to run into the most. Mm-hmm. Yes, it could be silver. Yes, it could be pewter. Yes, it could be zinc. A whole bunch of things. Could be lead. You'll lead if you start trying to hit it with the file and it bends, it's lead, right? Or if it's really, really soft, it's lead, right? So you can tell a little bit with the file what happens when you hit it. But now there's a third tool, a hammer. Everyone's got a fucking hammer laying around. Hit the thing with the hammer. If it makes a big bulge, right? Or if it goes in, like into the hole, it's probably lead, super soft, right? Let's go from the softest to hardest, right? If it goes like in and like smushes the whole thing, it's lead. If it makes a good dent, it's aluminum. If it makes a crack or you break through it and it cracks, it's going to be either cast aluminum or die cast, right? And then if you hit it hard and it just kind of nicks it or scratches it or one little, not even a puncture, but a little divot, it's probably stainless. Yeah. That's it. Right? If you can do that, you got the first 8 metals down. Well, also, then you get into aluminum extrudant, sheet, siding, gutters, can, foil, right? Cast.
Yeah.
Milled.
Well, and also, what are they used for, right?
Aluminum.
Like pots and pans. They're going to get hot and they're going to get wet. Right?
Yeah. So it's probably going to be aluminum. It's going to be stainless. But those old ones, those fucking like crock pots like your grandma had, those are galvanized steel, right? So it's right. And again, like that's where I get into people, and then I fucking lose them at about 3 minutes, right? Like lamps. I love fucking lamps, right? Lamps are either steel, die cast, or brass, right? That's it, right? And I can tell you, just looking at it, right? The shittier it looks, the probably nicer it is. A good brass lamp, unless someone just fucking polished it, it's going to get tarnished.
Yeah.
If it's super shiny, probably steel and it's just fucking painted on. If it looks like it's got a little bit of wear, it's probably die cast. And here's the thing. I still put the fucking magnet on it.
Yes.
I still put the fucking file on it. Because I can think all I want. I might be batting 75% on a good day. Again, these are things I haven't seen before, right? Some things you see and you're like, I know exactly what it is. But 75%. So that means there's 25% of the time I could be wrong. And what I don't want to do, it's bad to get paid for something or get paid less, right?
Yeah.
You threw fucking die cast in with brass, right? It's bad. Or I'm sorry, you threw brass in with die cast, right? Because brass is more expensive. It's really bad when you put die cast in with brass.
Yeah.
Because if someone else catches it, your credibility is gone. And I'm going to leave it at that. I got 1 minute because I got to jump on another call. When it comes to scrapping, when it comes to commodities on the back end, your credibility is everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you got something, know what the hell you got, know how to sell it, find the right resources, but never oversell it because it only takes one scrapyard to not let you in or give you shit prices.
Mm-hmm.
So know what the fuck you're doing. And the best way to know is to ask. You can hit Casey up. You can hit me up. You can find University of YouTube. People like us love learning and teaching about this industry. That's why we do the Trash Talk Business Podcast, because we love fucking talking about it.
Yeah. And don't forget about the horse shit.
There's your fucking
horse shit pays money.
Horse shit. All right. I got the producer Taylor's right behind me. Episode 3, horse shit and why you should know about it. Done. No idea what we're doing next week, but I'm sure Casey will tell me the day of.
I think we should get it.
All right, that's it. We're signing off.
You know?
Let's talk about recycling. All right, let's talk about recycling. Episode 4, let's talk about recycling. Yeah. So this is Casey, Bubba, Lawrence, Andy Weins signing off for this week's episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Follow us on all the places you follow podcasts, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Find us. Just give me a fucking call. My phone number is relatively available and accessible. Appreciate having you. We'll see you next week.